Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Sports Overtime. Duke Schindler here with you on the desk today as we have a very special guest. Someone that I've reached out to multiple times, talked to multiple times, and he's been nothing but gracious to me. So we'll welcome in Wolves beat writer for The Athletic and host of the Jon Krawczynski Show on the Talk North Podcast Network. Great to see you again, Jon. Thanks for hopping on. Ready to get started for another season here. How's it been so far?
Yeah, it's been good. Wolves are off to a little bit of a rocky start, but, all in all, it's always nice to just get a new season going and kind of start to get into a rhythm and see this team come together. So, so far, so good here.
For sure. And, obviously, we need guys like you to help us guide us through the start of this season. A bit of a rocky start, obviously, without Anthony Edwards, 2-3 on the season. Recently taking a 116-115 loss to the Lakers not too long ago here. Devastating fashion after such a great comeback to get back into that game. Your highest of highs and lowest of lows, Jon, here for your classic Wolves game. Tell me about the energy out there of the players because, obviously it started off very slow and then it took about till the last second for them to get hot.
Yeah, I think that, there's a little bit of frustration within the group because the defense just has not been there for most of this season. And that's what we saw in the Laker game as well, is that the Lakers were missing LeBron James, missing Luka Doncic, missing like 7 guys. And essentially Austin Reeves kind of did whatever he wanted to do against them. And so there was like some, in the locker room after the game, there was certainly some encouragement in terms of they came all the way back in the fourth quarter and got up at the end and had a chance to win that game after being down by 20 earlier in the second half and losing. But there's also just kind of disappointment in themselves, I think, that they let it get to that point. Basically, they viewed it as that they're just playing below their level, especially defensively. And so there's a lot of focus right now on trying to reclaim that defensive identity, get back to getting stops and then getting out in transition. And if they can do that, they'll be fine because the offense is looking just fine. Yeah. It's just the defense right now that's the big issue.
Right. The only offensive complaint I really have is when the ball gets sticky, when you start doing the ISO ball type of thing. But as far as I can tell, Julius as well as option 2 Jaden have been nothing but a pleasure to watch. It's been just kind of the bench that's been lacking, that's been missing here. How do you round up these guys and make sure they come out against Charlotte knowing they definitely need to win this game and show out?
Yeah, I think that you're right. One big factor that they need to kind of unlock is Naz Reid. Like, he is supposed to be the real engine of that second unit, comes off of the bench and really kind of gets things going offensively, moves the ball, hits threes, gets to the rim, and he's just not been himself early on in the season. He's been through an incredible personal loss with his sister, and so I wonder if that's factoring into things. And the other thing to look at is this has just been 5 games. Like, there's just, it's way too small of a sample size. Everyone's going to have little slumps here and there. It's just unfortunate that Naz has come right at the start of the season when, all the numbers have yet to be accumulated. So you're looking at those shooting percentages and things, and you're like, man, that looks terrible. But I think if they can find a way to kind of just get him into a rhythm, that will help things a lot because with Anthony Edwards out, they do need more than just Julius Randle and Jaden McDaniels offensively, both of those guys have been great, but they need a third guy. And whether it's Naz Reid or maybe even DiVincenzo a little bit more, I think you're going to see kind of some concerted effort to get those guys going and see if that can kind of help balance the offense out a little bit.
For sure, and you mentioned the defense being such a big part of what's happening here. Obviously, there's certain lapses off ball that I'd like to see, do. You got to stay locked in as well as the hard hedging on the pick and rolls. But overall, when I was watching that Lakers game, it really seemed like at the same time, they were just playing good spot-up defense, good man-to-man defense, and actually contesting shots. Did you kind of see the same thing from your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, some of that there was, but I do think that it just was too easy for the Lakers to get open shots. I mean, It really was like penetrate 1 pass, 2 passes, and then you got a wide open look. Mm-hmm. And I think 2 things that are happening right now. Chris Finch challenged Rudy Gobert and Jaden McDaniels, kind of the 2 leaders, to be better defensively. I thought Jaden was pretty good against the Lakers, and forcing Reeves into some tough shots and missing those. But I think Rudy is not ending possessions the way they need to right now. I mean, he's only had one double-digit rebound game so far. And we saw the last play of the game, he kind of makes a mistake in the coverage, and Austin Reeves splits it and gets a great look. And so right now they need to do a better job, I think, of contesting and really chasing. And Mike Conley told us after the game about just staying disciplined throughout the entire shot clock. There'll be, three guys will do the right thing and one guy will do the wrong thing, and then you get a wide open layup or a wide open three. And so everyone's just not really on the same page right now. And so I think there's just got to be kind of a lock-in on the mental side of things to kind of make sure that everyone's where they need to be.
Right, and you're with these guys all the time. You talk to them all the time. We know the huge part of this is effort, but this is really the first time we saw a training camp where all these guys are competing, a full training camp completed together. Besides the effort factor, is there anything else you see that the defense needs to improve on?
Yeah, I think that, it does seem more like mentality. I don't know, one of my theories that I haven't confirmed yet, but one of my theories is, look, this team's made the Western Conference Finals 2 years in a row, and I don't think they have the same sort of edge right now at the start of the season, because they know, hey, a long season, we'll be in the playoffs in the end, and then we'll start to make our move. I think that's dangerous in the Western Conference. I don't think that they can kind of let their foot off the gas, because you drop a couple of games and all of a sudden you're out of the play-in, field, and you're scratching and clawing. And so it just does seem like there's the team has to kind of lock in mentality-wise, but also they also have to kind of figure out how to play in this new look, because the one guy that they lost was Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and he was such a big part of their defensive game plan. So now the young guys like Terrence Shannon Jr., Dillingham, a few of these other guys, you just have to figure out what to do to replace that level of energy and effort. And I think that's a big issue right now. On top of, you're missing Anthony Edwards and Jalen Clark, two of your best perimeter defenders.
So I just wanted to ask you about a little bit more about Rudy Gobert here, about staying effective on offense, because we've seen it in years prior, and just the consistency of Rudy Gobert. When he's involved on offense, his defense also takes up a notch, but like I said, at age 32, can he stay effective for this Wolves offense to kind of balance that out?
Yeah, it's a big question that they have to answer, because I think there certainly is something to Rudy's just overall effectiveness, like skill level wise. He does seem like he's never been a smooth, fluid player, but that has seemed to degrade a little bit recently. And now it's going to be up to the rest of the team to still trust that he can make a play and he's not going to turn the ball over when they toss it to him. And if they don't trust him, that's when there's just going to be no way to get him more involved. And I think your point is right, though, that if he is involved offensively, he's doing more than just setting screens, then I think that helps him lock in defensively as well. He gives more effort on that end of the floor. He rebounds more when he gets a few touches. That's just human nature with any big man, especially one who is as established as he is. And so how they go about incorporating him more is going to be interesting. I think that's one of the reasons that Chris Finch is starting Mike Conley in Anthony Edwards' spot right now, is because Conley has a good rapport and rhythm with him. So they're going to have to address that, though. It can't continue on the way that it is with him just being a complete non-factor offensively, because it's dragging everything else down with it.
Right, and on the other side of the offense, can't say enough about the job that Julius and now second option Jaden has been doing. A little bit of positivity here, really keeping things afloat before they get just too much, lose by too many, get blown out. Ant rarely sits out, though, John. So is there anything that he can take from watching this squad?
Yeah, I do think, one thing that was a big factor last season in their strong finish to the year 17-4 was that Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo were both injured, and they sat out and they kind of watched to see. And when they came back, they had a better perspective on what they needed to do to be effective. Julius in particular was really good afterward because he got to absorb it. I do think that there is a real chance that as Anthony Edwards is watching from the sideline right now, he is really seeing in stark relief how much they need him defensively. I think that, it's very apparent that the ball pressure and ball containment on the perimeter has been really poor. And so I would anticipate that once Anthony Edwards gets back in the next week or so, probably, you will see him really dig in to the defensive side of things because he is also seeing that Julius Randle and Jaden McDaniels are capable of putting the ball in the basket and keeping that offense going. And so where they need the most help is defense on the perimeter. And so I would expect that Ant is going to be coming back with that as a primary focus when he gets back out on the court.
100%. And he hates not being out there, too. You can see it on his face. He's also involved with the refs. Even if he's wrong, he'll apologize for it as well. But just with this 2-3 start to the season, we've seen it on social media wherever. Chris Finch taking a lot of heat this season. He's coming off back-to-back Western Conference Finals. If you ask me if the Wolves would ever do that 10 years ago, I would have said maybe in my dreams. I don't think he's had a normal start to really any of these seasons. He started as head coach last year, obviously the Cat trade right before training camp, then the Cat sickness the year before. But the wins are what people care about, John. How do you just assess how Finch has navigated this Ant injury through the ups and the downs of this defense as well?
Yeah, he has certainly room to be criticized or scrutinized with some of the stuff. I mean, I do think that, for a team that is this veteran and this together to play this poorly defensively, there is part of the coaching that you have to look at in the scheme and things of that nature. That said, I do think that fans are probably a little over the top when you call for the firing of the best coach in franchise history who has shown, time and again that he will figure things out, that through the season the team does get better and they win games, and not only win games, but they win games in the playoffs. And so he is a very good coach. He understands what needs to be done. We are also seeing fans really want Rob Dillingham to play a lot, and we are seeing there are some good things that Rob does, and there are some struggles. There are reasons that he is not getting 25 minutes a night right now. That's just, Chris Finch is not just kind of being some sort of unreasonable dude by doing it that way. And so he has established a good rapport with this team. He's established a reputation of figuring things out, and it is hard to be patient at the start of a season when you have high hopes for this team and they start out a little bit ugly. I will tell you that every single team at some sort stretch in the season is going to go 2-3, and it's going to lose some games they shouldn't have lost. It just looks worse right at the start of a season. And so I do think he deserves the benefit of the doubt and the, kind of the time and the patience to work through these issues, because he's proven that he can do that. That said, I'm sure he can be better. There are things that he can do differently and better to kind of get this thing going. And I expect him to make some adjustments going forward.
Certainly, and this is a much different, situation than what OKC has, right? People try to liken it to that, but they have mostly young guys on this roster. There's really no basketball politics. It's just who's hot that night. And it's not like Finch can't develop players either. We saw Jaden, we saw Naz, Malik Beasley even, giving him a chance. Jordan McLaughlin has a role still at this point, Jared Vanderbilt. Some of these guys really not great defenders by any means either, but they were able to claw their way into their position to get that rotation spot. Rob's a lottery pick here, so is it just to the point where Finch needs a specific player at a specific time? This isn't a young team. This is a very veteran team with a bench full of veterans.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing with Rob Dillingham. I mean, the point guard is the hardest position to learn in the NBA, and in an ideal situation, if you're the 8th overall pick, you're going to a bad team and they're losing a bunch of games, and you can kind of really learn on the job and can make mistakes, and no one really is going to be caring all that much as long as you're building and developing. But with a team that wants to contend for a championship, the leash is a little shorter. And so I do think that Rob needs to play consistently just to try and kind of get some sort of rhythm down and learn the league. But he's also very young. He's undersized. He's got a lot of things that are working against him as well. And so he is not the typical, if you look at Terrence Shannon Jr., he is getting more time because he's just a bigger, older guy that has a little bit more idea of who he is and what he needs to do out there. And even he's struggling at times this season. But the Rob Dillingham dilemma is a difficult one for the coaching staff to try to navigate because they know that he needs time on the court to improve, but with where they're at right now, they don't have a whole lot of luxury to give him that time and, maybe lose several games and get behind the eight ball a little bit. So that's been the trickiest situation so far. And, Mike Conley's been solid at point guard, but not great. DiVincenzo and Bones Highland have been all right, but not great. They just don't have a lot of good options right now at that spot.
And when we do get Jalen Clark back and possibly throwing Johan Berenger into the lineup, that can really kind of balance out if Rob gets out there. You have a great perimeter defender and a great paint defender right behind you to help you out there as well for Naz, who isn't the greatest defender either. You see that being a potential lineup if it starts working out, if Johan Berenger starts really opening people's eyes, especially that coaching staff.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, of course, like what you worry about with that lineup is offensively. Like, what do you do? I mean, it would have to include, Rob and Naz have a pretty good pick and roll like chemistry, and so maybe that works a little bit. And maybe who would be the fifth that you'd play with that group would be interesting. But if that team could get enough easy buckets to keep the offense going, I think it does open up the possibilities for that lineup working because both Jalen and Berenger are going to be limited offensively. It's just how do you generate enough scoring to justify what you would give up on the other end. And so Chris Finch has been reluctant to put too many young guys together, but I mean at this point we are getting to the point of, hey, we might have to just try some of this stuff and see if it works.
Definitely. Jon Krawczynski joining us here, host of the Jon Krawczynski Show on the Talk North podcast, as well as the Wolves beat writer for The Athletic. John, I got one last question for you here. Thanks for joining. Thanks for hopping on and dealing with a little bit of technical issues here. Next game for Minnesota tomorrow at Charlotte, correct?
That's right.
Yep. 5 p.m. I'm sure the players feel like this is a game they not only have to win, but dominate against a far less talented 2 and 3 Hornets squad. What are they going to have to do? What do you need to see them come out and dominate the game and play all 4 quarters?
Yeah, I mean, they're just really going to have to buckle up defensively because the Wolves historically have been a team that take games against lesser competition for granted. But the Hornets are scoring points like crazy. I think they're a top 5 offense right now in the league. They just get out, they run, they shoot. They're flying all over the place. They're not stopping anybody at all, but the Wolves have to do a better job of making the opponent uncomfortable. And if they allow Charlotte to play with LaMelo just whipping the ball around the court and, Bridges dunking and all these things, then they're going to be in trouble. And so they have to treat this game as if they are playing a contender and come into it with the proper amount of intensity defensively to dial in, or else they could get run off the court down there too. Absolutely. Jon
Krawczynski dressing up as Halloween as a reporter today. John, thanks again for hopping on here. Nothing but appreciate you for taking some time here to start extending this Wolves fandom into Fargo, into North Dakota. So much appreciated.
Great. Thanks for having me, Duke. I really appreciate it.
Of course. All right, and welcome back. That was Jon Krawczynski there with The Athletic, senior writer, beat writer with the Timberwolves, taking some time out. Always appreciate these Wolves guys hopping on during a very hectic start to the season. But now we're going to turn our attention to NDSU football. Another ranked opponents ahead here for the Bison coming up. This time they're welcoming number 18 Youngstown State. NDSU, they haven't faced the Penguins since 2022, but they boast 11 straight wins versus Youngstown State. However, under center, they're going to have a dual threat quarterback in Bo Brungard leading the Missouri Valley Conference in rushing touchdowns for a quarterback with 14. Cole Payton's 5th in the conference with 10. The way the Penguins get team wins here is just score a ton of points, right? They average 34 a game, but on the other hand, they also give up 27 on defense. Looking at these last two games, 2 40-plus point performances and a 50-burger just this last week versus Murray State. So if that Bison defense can create a couple turnovers while the offense continues doing their thing, I can see a great outcome here for the Bison. Coming out of this one pretty easy. I'm going to call it here with a 42-27 win for the Bison, heading into a very interesting game against UND next week with everything on the line there. But we'll also pivot here to the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, we heard Carson Wentz is going to be out for the season with the shoulder injury after taking an absolute beating these last few weeks. So then enter stage left. Did you forget about him yet? I didn't. JJ McCarthy, he's ready to get back into action Sunday. And it's going to be one filled with pressure as they take on the Detroit Lions.
7.5 minutes.
And McCarthy's been sitting out for quite some time there with a high ankle sprain. But slowly, very slowly, I should mention, making his way back to 100%. And they're going to need him to keep up with the third highest scoring offense in the league in Detroit. Not to mention Detroit's defense, they're boasting the 4th best rush defense.
There's a late flag that 4 minutes to go, opening quarter. Los Angeles leads Minnesota
16th in the league when it comes to defending the pass, which makes it kind of a potential opportunity for McCarthy to put up a secondary that's been very banged up. But you may see the return of Terry Arnold, the quarterback for the Detroit Lions, and they're going to need him as much as ever to help keep JJ McCarthy
so the
contained.
Chargers
The Vikes certainly got the work cut out for him.
After on Sunday they dug a 20%
defend every ounce of grass. Here's Kevin O'Connell.
JJ McCarthy will have a full week of preparation. He's in a really good place from a health standpoint and has been really. He's made multiple comments to me about just the throughout the rehab, but being able to watch Carson play the position, play it as a new player in our offense, and see ways he was able to distribute the football, get the ball out of his hands, completions, and the positive effect that had on the offense in every capacity. So excited about getting on the field.
Excuse me, missed me there. Welcome. We'll wrap up Sports Overtime here. Duke Schindler on the desk. Thank you very much for watching here today. Hopefully you enjoyed all the content we have. We're going to be pumping out much more as the sports season, fall and winter, really began to take shape. Thanks again for joining us here on the Valley News Now Network. Duke Schindler. We'll catch you later.